I'm not a person that has experienced domestic violence, so perhaps I was lucky in that regard. I'm relatively new to the country, and I'm not I don't have a qualification in domestic violence or women, gender studies, etc. My qualification is environmental management. But I am a person who grew up in a country where I was for many years part of the marginalized group in that country. And so I think I've got a profound sense of equality. And so when this opportunity came up in our organization, I was one of the first to say I would like to contribute to this, because I think ultimately that is what it is about. It's about equality, it's about treating women the way we equally. Okay, and I think it's important because through my journey I've made mistakes, etc. And I acknowledge that, and I will bring those mistakes to the table today and share with you. Okay, so that's me. Also, I was asked to talk about this in the context of engagement. And if you look at the literature, there's typically 6 elements of engagement that one should adhere to if you want to have successful engagement. There might be more, but generally there's 6. That is, they say things like you need to communicate a compelling message to your audience. You need to say to them what it's about. You need to build a guiding coalition. You need to create principle-based guidelines for decision making, and not compliance-based decision-making. So you need to say, people should be comfortable to say, this is wrong because it's wrong for this reason. Not it's wrong because the checklist says it's wrong. Okay? You need to identify early engagement indicators. So if you engage, you need to, what is it that you want to, what message do you want to bring across, etc. So you need to be mindful of that. And you need to generate continuous opportunity for dialogue. Okay? And then the 6th one is you need to plan assimilation strategies for new members. So when new members come along, because typically, look at this organization, it's been operating for 5 years. The members that we have now might be different to the members that we had 5 years ago. So we need to, what are the strategies to make sure that those that come on board now are brought up to speed so that they share the same values, etc. of this organization. And I'll be talking about these in my presentation as well. I will perhaps not use the high-level wording that was used from literature, but essentially I'm going to try and touch on these elements in my presentation. Often, I've been approached by a number of organizations and then to ask, so what is White Ribbon? And I'm sure a lot of you would know what the White Ribbon campaign is all about, etc. But then they would ask me things like, what is the cost? What are the low-hanging fruit that we can benefit? What can we borrow from you? Does it sound familiar when we implement things? And things like, and how soon can this be done? And my response often is, this is not a systems check approach. This is the White Ribbon campaign, and many other campaigns out there, is about behavioural change. So it is a vehicle, but at the end of it, you need to ensure that we change people's behaviour over time. Okay? And so for some organizations, that can happen in a shorter space of time because of the fact that they are a smaller organization. For others, it will take a longer period of time. But that is ultimately what a campaign like this, or the work that people are doing, is about. You need to bring about a change in people's behavior. Okay? So when I tell them that, then people are not so keen because they want this thing to happen overnight. Okay, and it's not something that happens overnight. Just a summary of the White Ribbon campaign. The work, I can't talk about the schools program, but the workplace program is essentially, they evaluate 3 standards. they evaluate leadership and commitment. And in that category, you have 6 subheadings, if you like. They look at leadership commitment of resources, whether there is a budget for this, etc. They look at internal communication. How do you communicate with your staff members? How do you allow them to communicate with you? How do you share the learnings across the organization, etc.? They look at external communication. And often I say external communication is not just to say that you are a white ribbon organization at the bottom of your email. What is that called? Your signature block. Because a lot of organizations tend to think, now I have communicated, I've let people know. Okay, it's not just about that. It's about talking to your stakeholders, your contractors, letting people know out there that this is what you do and this is how you can even assist them, organizations like yourself. Collaboration, and then the last one under that heading is demonstrated engagement with issues of violence against women. Now, I don't know if you, people that has been part of this know that initially was something else. It was called demonstrated, you needed to demonstrate how you were involved in the White Ribbon campaign, okay? And fundamentally, that was a problem because the White Ribbon campaign, as important as it is, there are other campaigns that are also addressing violence against women. I had the opportunity to go up to Darwin to their White Ribbon Ball, and there, working side by side with the White Ribbon organization is what they call and the name is momentarily escaped me. Sorry, does anybody know the name? It's an organization that does a lot of domestic violence work within the Aboriginal community up there. My apologies, this is a
Is it South Australia based?
No, it's
Territory.
Northern Territory. I'll get the name for you. The important thing is there are a lot of other organizations as well, and White Ribbon realized that it's not just about supporting them, which is important, but also supporting other organizations. In our organization, as an example, there's a staff member that every year before Christmas, she organizes a silly Christmas jumper event where you put on a silly Christmas jumper, you bring in money, and we donate the money to Catherine House. Okay, that's very important, isn't it? So I think they realize that. Standard 2 is about prevention of violence against women. So what do you do to prevent violence against women? And the important thing here is and I'll talk to that on another slide, is that the White Ribbon campaign acknowledges that violence against women is perhaps not just the physical violence, but everything that we allow that ultimately leads up to the physical environment, isn't it? We allow men to think that they are superior to women, they can make derogatory jokes and whatever, and that leads to a culture where people think, I can't get my way, let me give her a smack. Okay, so it's about acknowledging all of that and seeing how do we address, as an organization, those things in society. And then how to respond to violence against women. When people are being affected, what does an organization do about that? Okay, would people feel comfortable to what's the word, divulge that they are experiencing violence? How do we treat women like that? Do we have facilities where a manager can have a private conversation with somebody that's being impacted, etc.? So, and I think I'm preaching to the converted here, you guys might know this. It's 10 minutes left, and I'm only at slide number 2. Anyway, often people ask me, do we really need White Ribbon Accreditation? We've got wonderful laws in this country that make sure that women are being treated equally. In the public sector where I work, you've got the Office of the Department of Premium Cabinet, for instance. They give a lot of guidance. They've got what they call determinations on how that everybody must receive equal pay. We want We want 50% of men and women on as executives, etc., etc. And the answer is yes. And often I tell those managers, if you were to get off a plane in Melbourne, how long is the flight to Melbourne? An hour and a half. You had a nice drink on the plane and you want to get to a toilet, chances are that you're not going to queue. Chances are that the ladies are going to queue. Okay? If you were to go to the Royal Adelaide show at the end, late in the year, chances are that I'm not going to queue for toilet. Chances are, for whatever reason, ladies has got, and I need to be careful now, typically you would be the people pushing a pram with a baby, not the guy. Okay? And for other reasons, you can't just look at, okay, the law says there must be 4 cubicles for men and 4 cubicles for women. If you look at it realistically, we might need more. Okay? And so when I tell them this story, then they begin to think, because even in our building, for instance, for males, we've got 3 cubicles and 3 urinals. For the ladies on the same level, we've got 3 cubicles. Now the law would have said that's okay, but are we treating our female staff equal? Are we practicing equality? Perhaps not. Okay, and so when you look at the White Ribbon Workplace program, it's all those things, from this to the actual violence that is an organization needs to address. I'm going to skip some of the pages because of time. Okay, I want to talk about our lessons learned. The first lesson I think that we've learned is you need to frame this problem in a way that people understand the bigger picture, that they understand it is from how we allow men to speak to women to the actual physical violence. And I think I've made that point. You need to acknowledge mistakes and commit to addressing them. I think that's very important. You need to say, okay, we've made mistakes in the past. In fact, we even make mistakes now. Typically, when we start with the program, White Ribbon gives you a survey to measure how the perception of your staff members in terms of violence against women. And that's an eye-opener, because they ask you, when is it okay to make derogatory jokes, as an example? And guess what? In our case, a lot of people couldn't see that that was a problem. Okay? They couldn't see that that was a problem. And I can remember having a heated debate with the manager, and so I just asked him, when is it okay to make a derogatory joke about a black person? I'm black. You see? So immediately there was a change in thinking. And I think we need to be honest about these things. Okay? So you need to acknowledge that you're addressing it in the workplace, like I said, but also in areas that you impact. Often our footprint is bigger than the work that we do, okay? And with those that you do business with. Lesson learned number 3, and I think I've said this is a change management process. It's not simply about collecting a ribbon or certificate. You need to make sure that you take people along a journey so that after 18 months or whatever, people begin to think differently about this. You need to work collaboratively with a range of stakeholders. You need to be willing to continue work with the program, even if the benefits doesn't seem to be obvious in the beginning. Okay? Sorry. And then the important principle of nothing for us without us is often used. In South Africa, where I come from, I used to work in the disability area as well of the university, and often that sentence was used. Don't do things for us if you didn't consult with us. Okay? So that's important. Granted that often domestic violence is a difficult subject and people don't necessarily talk about that, but you need to find ways to tap into people so that they are willing to share some of that with you. I'm going to leave the presentation, so feel free to read through that. I think I talked about this one just now, and collaborate with people in your industry. I think the one lesson that I've learned is you need to make engagement easy yet meaningful. And let me give you an example of that. we launched in our second year of the program, in the first 6 months of the program, we launched a campaign that we thought was great. We gave everybody a card over a period of 10 weeks that talked about the different myths about violence against women, because we wanted to educate people. So every morning, every week, you would come onto your desk, you would find a card there. And the idea was that we wanted people to build a poster in their little work area, etc. with all the. But what we found that people said, Eugene, this is confusing, it's too much. Some of them didn't even know that there were different cards, because the cards were differently designed or whatever. We knew that because we thought we were academic people and we were great. Okay, people said no, but the important thing also was people said this was taking too long. As a manager, I've got other things to do as well. And guess what? That is true. This is but one thing, one of many things that they need to contend with. Isn't that so? So you need to make sure that you respect people's time, etc. as well. Like I am respecting your time. So let me talk about the next initiative that we had. Then we realized, okay, don't waste people's time. It's an important topic, but make sure that you give them a message and it doesn't eat into their time. So we came up with, we all know the person in the middle, right? That's Aman. A very influential person in Adelaide. I believe he received a recognition on Monday. I'm so proud of him. By the way, this is his. I borrowed it this morning. I said, this is our CEO, John Hanlon, and this is another senior executive in the organization. We then said to people, would you mind, on White Ribbon Night last year, we gave them little ribbons and said, write something on there. We didn't say what they needed to write on there. We left it in the lobby for a week. And before we knew it, people started writing very personalized messages on there. Things like, this is for my aunt who survived domestic violence. Things like, I am a survivor of domestic violence. Things like, children, this is to little Johnny who survived domestic violence, etc., etc. But also things like, I will stand up. I will not be quiet about this anymore, etc. And that for us was very meaningful, because all of a sudden, that's just examples of some of the little ribbons. Then you can say, I will stand up. And I've removed the name of the person, because that person felt that she wanted to put a name there. There's one that says, for my aunt who is a DV survivor. But all of a sudden, we now had an understanding that, guess what? This is not just happening over there, it's happening within our organization. So people actually started telling us about the situation. And this for me was way more meaningful than the previous exercise. But also at the morning tea that we had 93 people taking part in our organization that is long. We had 53 people that wrote very personalized notes. We had 130 people attending the morning tea. And an organization of 300 people, that's a lot for us. That's a lot. Because typically, if you were to ask people to fill in a survey, for example, if you get 20%, that's wonderful, isn't it? So make it easy and meaningful. Coming back to how can we engage the community and other organizations, this is the first page of our strategy. You can understand we're going through what they call a machinery of government change at the moment, so I think there's going to be a split in our organization. We might have to rethink this, so that's why I've only taken the first page. And what it says here, our strategy will focus on 3 areas in which we can influence. This is us as Renewal SA. We can influence people in our place of work. We can influence the community because we do community housing, etc. And we can influence our business stakeholders. Another organization might have a different sphere of influence. You need to be aware how you can influence people and use that. So that is how we influence people. And if you do this, you need to think outside the box. So for instance, in the workplace, we said We're going to embed safety in our work health and safety framework, for instance. And we're going to train duty holders to include women's safety issues in risk assessments, in safety inspections, and in safety audits. So we're making it part of, this is about safety at work as well. Okay? So if you were to work late, for instance, what do we do to make sure that you can reach your car safely, as an example? Okay? We're going to recognize violence against women as an organizational risk, and we're going to consider that it's included in your operational risk registers. Okay? There are some of the things that we've decided we're going to do in the community, and you can feel free to read through that. But the first one, for instance, is very important. By simply doing what we do in the organization, we are indirectly impacting the community as well. So now we're going to say to people, whatever lessons you've learned, please take it to your family. Share with your family. Make White Ribbon Day or White Ribbon Night a family event as well. So whatever we do in the organization, we're actually touching our families as well. I think that might be for me. And with our business stakeholders, take the message to the industries. Promote the White Ribbon ethos amongst renewal tenants and cohabitation spaces, for instance. We've got buildings and we've got tenants, so there's an opportunity for us to take that message to them. Lastly, I want to end this presentation by asking the same question. Do we need White Ribbon Accreditation? And this is perhaps for you, because often organizations like yourselves might not have the budget, the other resources, the time, because you offer some of your time, etc., to do this, and many a times you can't see the benefit now. Okay? But I want to say, continue with what you're doing, because campaigns like these are the first job to start the ripple effect in society, and we all know what the ripple effect is. That one little thing that was done, and it branches out so that after a while, and often it takes many, many years, everybody is doing that. Before I started the presentation, I said, think about using your safety belt in the car. The police doesn't need to focus or police that as much as they did 20 years ago. Because 20 years ago, it was perhaps a new concept. Now we're policing it ourselves. If you were to see me in a car, you might have the guts to say, hey, your child is not strapped in, or you're going to phone the police or something. 20 years ago, it wasn't the case. Okay? So think of it that way. We need to put in all our energy now, so that 20 years from now, when my 14-year-old is a 34-year-old, he doesn't see it as doing his wife or his partner a favor by treating her equally. He knows it's the right thing to do. Thank you very much, and thank you for ignoring the fact